It's April 8th. In the last a little over 24 hours, it's rained a bit over 8 inches, pretty much ruling out any activities on the farm. So I got restless, thought I'd come over to the barn and take a look at some of the sheds we found this season. Green up is in full force right now. The clover fields have gotten at least knee deep. You can't find anything in a clover field anymore. The woods are greened up. They've gotten lush. Hard to find a shed there, so it looks like this will be the pile that we've got for this year. Of course, we'll probably find a few more with a tractor tire at some point in time, but we'll find out when we start working the plots. So anyhow, I thought I'd take a few minutes and show some of the sheds. I'll start with the dead deer first. This one probably hurt the most. This was a 4-year-old. I was familiar with him. We had a lot of trail cam pictures of him during the season, and I lost him somewhere during the season. Never saw him again. Wondered what happened to him. I think I know now. You can see this point right here. He also had a matching one on this side. Even without that, he's right at 180 right here, so if you added in and assumed that this point was about the same as this point right here, he'd be 183, 184, something like that. 4-year-old, I think. Hate to lose him, kind of stings. Here's another. This is a 3-year-old we found dead. Also kind of hurts. You can hear the rain, still raining. 8 inches, still going. Beautiful little deer. You can tell he doesn't have the mass yet, being a youngster. Probably had a drop tine right here. I rattled him up one day, and I think that the deer that killed him was a 130-inch 8-point. Nothing special, but a couple of years older and old enough. But whatever got him, he's dead too. One last dead one here. A couple of little non-typical points there. Hate to lose them like this. Probably another 3-year-old. Can't really tell by the upper teeth. The upper tooth wear is even less reliable than lower tooth wear, so can't go by that. But they're all very sharp, and it's unlikely this deer was very old. This was the first shed that I found this year. Handsome fella. I believe this to be a 5-year-old. This was not his bigger side, actually. The other side had a couple extra points. Had a non-typical point coming out like that and an extra G5. It also had the forked brow like that. I figure this 5-year-old was probably in the mid-90s, maybe even the upper 190s. First shed I found, it was a pretty good start to the season. Get pretty excited when you start finding that. I was especially proud to find this particular fella. He was one of my target bucks to find. 4-year-old, super 4-year-old, both G2s forked. How cool is that? Great main beams. I think this main beam right here was 26 inches long. Both brow tines match. You can see he broke that off. Now I found these probably half a mile apart. Interestingly, on the same trail. He had walked the same trail across a road to behind a clover field that I had, and I found these sheds probably 2 weeks apart. So I found this one first and then was able to come back and find this one. What luck is that? 175-inch 4-year-old, promising superstar. This fella may not look like much right here, but actually he was pretty special too. He had a deep fork. The fork was equal to the length of the G2 here. Very long G3. Hard to see, but right here he had a drop tine that came out that was probably 5 or 6 inches long. Another 3-year-old. Real happy with this fella. He lived in a cowpea and sun hemp field the whole summer. We could get pictures of him pretty regularly. In velvet, he was magnificent. Doesn't look so much here. He had big main beams too. So be very keen to see what this fellow will do in the coming year. I thought this kind of neat to find also. Obviously an older shed. These were maybe 3 years old. This is a buck we call Choir Director. This is probably the oldest deer on the farm. He was either 10 or 11 last year. This is him when he was 9. We think he was 9. He just never got around to growing that G3 right there or anything else. But pretty handsome fella, you know, for an old man, fun to see. And he was still alive this year. You know, we'll find out. It's been kind of a fun running experiment to find out how old these deer in Louisiana live. So these two sheds were probably not more than 5 yards apart, side by side in the ground. Kind of neat. Of course, sometimes you're going to find something like this. This, I think, was off of a deer I was really looking for. You can see it's pretty big around right there. Hit it with a bush hog, found another piece of tine about that long, spent 30 minutes trying to find the rest of it. You can see where the blade hit right there, but never could find the rest of the antler. It was in a fairly deep clover field, but I have a hunch there'll be more of that when we start getting into the fields, bush hogging and so forth. Couple of fun up-and-comers. 3-year-old here, we saw him some. Love seeing the little non-typical points, extra points there. You know, you have to have a bunch of deer like this in the pipeline. You never know which ones will get bigger, which ones will die, which ones will never do anything. But if you have enough bucks like this that are 2 or 3 years old, some of them are going to get to be pretty big. Just can't tell. But then there's bucks like this one. Now I'm going to tell you, I don't think we got any pictures. Tremendous mass, by the way, tremendous mass. But that's about it. If I'd have had somebody in a blind with me and this fellow walked out, they'd have had him a trophy. There would be a little chance of this deer surviving, but he's still out there. That's always going to happen. Same thing with this right here. Another one we had on the hit list, pretty identifiable. I've been happy if somebody would have gotten him. 3-year-old also, but he's still out there too. You know, and who knows? Maybe something like this. He may grow a G4 right there. He may do something special. I wouldn't bet on it, but worth finding out. We're gonna find out because he's still out there. And then this, probably a 2-year-old, believe it or not. Love to see this kind of deer. Take all those we can get. Even if he's 3, he's still got the right shape to be pretty good. You know, and let him get to be 5, 6, 7 years old, maybe 8 years old. Who knows? He'll be a trophy for somebody. Same thing with this right here. Another youngster. Again, probably a 3-year-old. Looks good. Got a fork like some of those other deer. G4. Love to see what he'll become. We do see some of this, and that always worries you a little bit whenever you see a piece of the pedicle coming off with it, and had that on this deer as well right here. Makes you nervous. Makes you nervous when you see that. Hate to see it, but we've seen it before and found the deer. They come back, they do okay. Sometimes they die. They die out there a lot. Pretty good stack of antlers. Now let's take a break. We'll go inside the office here. I'll show you a couple of other deer and what can happen on the farm when you have a tight ratio, and they fight a lot. I'll show you what happens sometimes. Here, what we find. There's any number of reasons why we cull deer, one of which is they fight a lot. This was a 3 or 4 year old 8-point, obviously pretty nondescript. And we found this 8-point right here locked up with this buck right here. Let's go take a look. Yeah, the deer I was just showing you was locked up with this buck right here. That's a 180-inch 8-point. Got a couple of forks and a nice drop right there. And the small 120 or 30-inch 8-point locked up with this one, and we found them both drowned in a pond. Kind of stings. but it happens on a well-managed ranch. So that's a look at this year's sheds. Now we'll go take a look and see what we can't find with the tractor tires. Stay tuned.